Is that okay? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sarah. I am happy to welcome you all to tonight's meeting of Council Matters. I'm hoping that people on the screen in Zoom can hear me. Give me a wave. Yep, lovely. And the people in the room can hear me. Give me a wave. Thank you very much. This microphone still is weird. This is a meeting of Freetown Council's Council Matters Committee. My name is Lizzie Boyle. I will be chairing tonight's meeting. We want to make sure our meetings are available to as many people as possible, regardless of where they are. So we're using a hybrid setup with some councillors here in the town hall and some attending on Zoom, also members of the public. For those councillors attending via Zoom as participants, please use your digital hand to make yourself known if you wish to speak or ask a question. For members of the public who are here as attendees on Zoom, please use the Q&A board. For those here in the room, a little bit of housekeeping. The emergency exit is in the rear corner of the room. The assembly point is at the far right-hand side of the car park. Toilets are at the end of the corridor on the right-hand side, and there's an accessible toilet to the right of the lift. Tonight, Paul will clerk, Laura will manage slides and take the minutes. Sarah and Rachel will be on hand. Rachel is looking after the questions board. Sarah and Rachel together looking after participant settings and all things IT. The meeting will be recorded. I'm here. The meeting will be recorded for minuting purposes, and we are live streaming to our YouTube channel. One last thing for people who are in the room, because we now have a slightly more minimalist camera setup, people on Zoom can always see who's asking a question. So if you could introduce yourself before you ask your question or make your comment, that means that the people on Zoom know who's speaking. And I'll try and remind you of that if we forget as we go. Right. Item number 1. Apologies for absence, declarations of interests and approval of minutes from the last meeting. Any apologies, Paul?
We've got apologies from Rob Collett and Sarah Butler, and technically, because Anne Hills and Andy Palmer are zooming in, they're officially sending apologies.
Thank you. And I would like to propose that we accept those apologies. And can I have someone to second that? Mark, thank you very much. And all those who agree to accept apologies.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Declaration of councillors' interests. All quiet in the room, all quiet on screen. Okay. Approval of minutes from the last meeting, which was held on the 3rd of November last year. Any comments on the minutes at all? There was one thing I wanted to raise, which was Jill Phone had asked us about the traffic management situation at the Butts, and Paul was going to talk to Scott Ward and John Clark to see if you could get an update. And I believe you have an update.
I have an update. John has been liaising with the Highways Authorities, Somerset County Council. They've been a bit delayed recently, but they are hoping to get the work done. This is the yellow lines, hoping to get the work done spring/summer this year.
Fantastic, thank you very much. In which case, I would like someone to propose their approval of the minutes. John, thank you very much. And Rich to second. And all those who agree the minutes.
That's majority.
Lovely. In which case, on to item number 2, questions and comments from members of the public and councillors. I'm going to survey the room first and then come to Rachel for anybody in Zoom. So, Anita, if you can say who you are, we'll get into the practice of this. Thank you.
Just as a point of information, really, that due to the speed indicator device, which has been in the town, thanks to Chris Stringer for helping to set that up, the data that's being provided now has resulted in the speed enforcement unit actually being present. Oh, sorry. Would you like me to start again?
Please.
Good, thanks. Yeah, okay. A point of interest, really. The SID, with the speed indicator device, which Chris Stringer helped to set up, has now provided data for us to the extent that the information provided on Bath Street speeding has resulted in a speed enforcement unit actually being in place. So all good things are coming from it. So just an awareness now.
Fantastic.
So they're likely to be moving around the town, and the more data we can gather, obviously that will continue in other places.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And thank you to everyone who's been involved in getting that set up. I know it was not as easy as it sounds, and monitoring that. That's good to know. And good to know that actually getting the data then brings about that action fairly promptly. So great. Any other comments or questions? Mark, hello.
Hello. One working?
Can you hear yourself on the speakers? It's hear you online.
Can I hear myself on the speaker? Yeah, I can. Oh, Dorrington, councillor. With regard to Jill Phone, she raised the point at the last meeting we had about the staying open of the Westway post office.
Yes.
I've been talking to Sarah, who's the post mistress, and she spoke to me today to say she just signed another rolling contract to keep it open today. It's a 4-week rolling contract. She's had to take new staff on who've got a 6-month contract, so it's important that it does get supported, otherwise it'll close down. There's a couple of issues with IT there, but hopefully it'll be okay. But the good news is it's going to stay open for the foreseeable.
That's great news. Thank you very much for that, Mark.
Really good.
Okay. Rachel, anything online?
No, nothing.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we move on to item 3, which is Hannah with an update on Council's financial position at the end of December 2021. Hannah, over to you.
Okay, so I'm Hannah Panisha and I'm the Assistant Finance Officer. The first part of the report is for the internal audit for April to October 2021. The internal audit took place on the 24th and 26th of November, and they picked up that 3 new e-bikes purchased in June and a hedge trimmer were not added onto the asset register, so this has now been corrected and they're on there now. The second part of the report is for councillor approval for disposing of an asset. One of the e-bikes purchased in 2017 has broken. So Emma Parker has looked into getting this fixed, but the main issue was the motor and it's beyond repair. Pronto Bikes in town have suggested that the whole project will not be financially viable to get this fixed and working again. It's suggested to dispose of the e-bike, donating it to the next bike jumble. We now also have 2 new e-bikes for hire to replace this one and another older one that will be used as a pool bike at the town hall. The second older one won't be hired out due to it being purchased at the same time as the one that's been broken. And one of the actions for Froome Town Council's climate emergency matrix is to make an e-bike available for council use. Also, Pronto Bike Shop, who look after the hire bikes, are short on storage, so they can't take on an extra e-bike at this time. The next part of the report is for councillors' approval for creation of an EMR. Terry Pitts, the community fridge coordinator, raised £3,468 in donations through crowdfunder for shutters for the community fridge. The money has been transferred to Froome Town Council on the 24th of January and been put into an earmark reserve. The funds will be used to pay for shutters, and any balance left in the earmark reserve will be used for future community fridge maintenance. The income highlights: we received £6,822 for the cheese and grain PV panel income. This is for the period 25th of March to 21st of December. We also received £6,296 from Salix, which is an interest-free loan for the LED bulbs installation throughout the town hall. We've paid the £6,296 out to Positive Services, who have done the work to replace the LED lights. The balance sheet is a breakdown of the assets and liabilities. Our total net assets at the 31st of December were £1,753,900. This is our assets of £1,774,097 minus our liabilities of £20,197. The final part of the balance sheet shows our reserves. The general reserves are £1,005,693 and the earmark reserves total £748,207. The total reserves are £1,753,900, which equal our net assets. We recently purchased 2 gooseneck microphones for testing in the chamber to see how we can improve the sound broadcast during hybrid meetings. The expense is budgeted to come from the 2022-23 budget, and therefore we're posting them for prepayment for next year. We've also had confirmation that the Town Council's application for a current account with Unity Bank has been successful. We're just waiting for online login details so we can trial their accessibility, especially with uploading back payments. Once we receive these login details, we'll be able to trial this. If it's successful, we'll bring any recommendations back to council to move our to move our current account. We're 3/4 of the way through the financial year, and there are no major variations to the report. We've used little of the COVID-19 emergency budget for the year. We have forecasted that our general reserves will be £209,000 at the 1st of April 2022, and we'll provide a year-end report at May 2022 council meeting. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Rich? Who are you?
Councillor Ackroyd.
Thank you.
Just about disposal of the asset, the e-bike. If that does go to the bike jumble, the proceeds of the bike jumble usually go towards missing links. So I'm just declaring an interest, okay, as a trustee, just so everybody knows.
Thank you. Any questions? Andy?
Andy Jones, member of the public. You mentioned that we've not spent much of the COVID emergency fund. What happens to that if it's not spent by any deadline?
It's going into general reserves and will be used to subsidise next year's income.
Great. Sheila, and then I'll come to Rachel.
I just wanted to ask whether you had any idea of when the shutters on the fridge might installed.
I'm not sure, but we can check with Nikki Brain and come back to you.
Yeah, that would be good, because it does look very sad and unloved at the moment, so it'd be good to do it as soon as possible. I'm sure they're trying to, but it would be great to know when that's going to be.
And just, a huge shout out to Terry and everyone involved with the community fridge, and to those in the community who supported and donated money towards that, because it's a tremendous asset for the town, and it's sad every single time somebody decides to smash it. So stop smashing things, folks. Before I come to you, Rachel, Paul, did you want to jump in on something?
Just to say on the loop-to-loop building that houses the community fridge and the community larder, we're working with Mendip to take over the lease of that, which will enable us to make the transition of improving things quicker and repairing things quicker. So it's a peppercorn rent on the lease, so really just taking on a little liability there, but we thought it'd be a good thing to do.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Rachel.
Anne has her hand up. I'd like to ask a question, please.
Anne, hello.
Hi, it was just about the Unity Trust Bank and how much I welcome all the. I know it must have been a lot of work to find an appropriate bank account. I'm really hoping that the backs payments work well, and then we can move away from the less ethical banking that we're doing at the moment.
Absolutely, and again, this has been something that has taken a while to kind of come through, and yeah, thank you to those who championed it and those who've been doing the legwork to try and find alternatives to the banks we currently use. Any other questions or comments before I head us towards the recommendations? Which, Laura, can you pop those on the screen for us? Lovely, because there's a bundle. Here we go. So I'm going to try and take them as one lot. So approving the internal auditor's report, approving the disposal of the e-bike, creating the EMR for the community fridge, and then approving the income and expenditure sheet, the payments made, and the balance sheet. Nick, thank you for proposing. John, thank you for seconding. And lots of...
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Great work, as always. Now we move on to number 4, which is in Peter's capable hands, which is installation of new finger post signage around the town centre. Peter, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. And just a reminder, I'm Peter Wheelhouse. I'm the Deputy Town Clerk and also the Economic Development and Regeneration Manager. And tonight I'm presenting a report that Jane Llewellyn would have presented, but she's currently on holiday. So just really to start, hopefully much of what you saw in the report and what I'm about to say will be familiar, as this is effectively an update of the detailed briefing councillors received in September last year. Next slide, please. The starting point for this project was a grant application that we submitted to GWR 5 years ago. And it was part of a bigger proposal to improve the visitor facilities at the railway station. In the end, the only physical improvement that GWR were prepared to fund was finger post signage between the station, the town centre and the town hall at a cost of 12k. Because we were under pressure to spend the money very quickly in order to preserve the grant, we made an advance payment to specialist supplier Fitzpatrick Woolmer, following contact with various different suppliers. As you know, it's taken a very long time to get to this point, with various surveys and iterations of the proposed network going back and forth between our transport planners, IMA, and Somerset County Council. And the process to obtain a licence has also been very protracted. So thank you to you for your patience, and thanks also goes to Jane for her dogged determination to get this project over the line. The delays in part explain the rising costs, which I'll talk about in a moment, as the material costs have gone up exponentially over the period. The increase is also explained by additional finger posts, because when we look more closely at the network, we realised that it would work best with some additional signage. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the revised costs. To deliver this project, we now need to find an additional 15.5k, including a sum for contingency. Next slide. I'd just like to run through some of the benefits of this scheme, and they are significant. Firstly, the existing signage in the town centre, which will be replaced, is in dire need of restoration and updating. You'll also be aware that, especially if you're travelling on foot from the station, that the current signage is confusing, sending you towards Rodden Meadow if you're heading towards the town centre. Unquestionably a scenic route, but not the most direct to the town centre. And some of the signage in the town centre is also inconsistent. I'll give you an example of that. Black Swan Arts appears as Black Swan and Black Swan Guild in various different places. The existing signage directing people to our visitor information point is also sadly lacking and confusing, and it's a complaint that's picked up by our volunteers on a fairly regular basis. What we will get as a result of this investment is a brand new wayfinding system linking the station, town centre and town hall. And also, as part of the system, there will be signage that directs those that wish to use the National Cycleway route as a way of getting from the town centre to the station. Also, because we will own the posts, we can take charge of keeping the network up to date as new facilities and places of interest appear over time. Through earlier town centre surveys, the poor quality of wayfinding was raised as an issue, and so we're now responding to this in a way that improves the journey for visitors and residents alike. And it will also direct people to a much greater number of places to visit in the town and support our active travel objectives too. So as you can see, there are quite a lot of benefits of this particular scheme. Next slide. Now, apologies, this plan is a little blurred. but it's mainly designed to show how extensive the network will be. And the network, as you will have seen in the report, comprises 6 replacement finger posts and 7 new ones. I should also add that representations were invited by Somerset County Councillors Highway Authority in September 2021, when the licences for these finger posts were advertised, and small adjustments to the network were made in response to that. Naturally, I'll answer any questions about the network a bit later. The next slide, please. So what will the signage look like? First of all, I'd like you to take a look at the image on the right of this slide, and it's an example of the products supplied by Fitzpatrick Woolmer. Please don't look too closely, as it shows signage in St Albans, but hopefully gives an impression of the quality of the product. On the left-hand image are 2 examples of the finger posts that you will see delivered in Frome. And you'll notice that unlike the current finger posts in town, the new ones will show distances on foot and will bring things right up to date with places that people can visit today. And as you'll have read in the September briefing, it was decided early on to go for a contemporary style of signage to reflect the fact that much of the signage will actually lie outside of the historic town centre. Nonetheless, care is being taken to ensure that the colour scheme matches that of other street furniture that we have invested in the marketplace as part of phases 1 and 2 of our public realm scheme there. Also, the proposed font closely matches that of the existing finger post in the town centre. In terms of the materials that we propose to use, the posts and the fingers will be of powder coated steel, and we're going for a very durable acid etched white painted lettering on the fingers. And the last point, and the question that you may well ask, is when will this all be delivered? I spoke with the contractor today, and if we were in a position to place the order next week, we're talking about 12 weeks from order before we actually see these finger posts installed. So if you just move to the next slide. So obviously these are the recommendations. The proposal is to fund the balance utilising existing budgets and underspends. And at this point, I'll take any questions.
Great, thank you, Peter. I've got a couple of hands up already in the room, but I'm going to abuse my privilege as chair to ping in my own question, which was with the additional costs associated with the project, do you have a split of how much is because we want more signs and how much is the increase in material costs?
I'm afraid I don't have the answer to that question, but I can certainly find out for you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in the room, John. I'm sorry, I stole your question. There you go. Rich and then Nick.
Hi, Councillor Ackroyd. Thanks, Peter and Jane, for your work on this. It's taken a long time, I know. I remember 2017 when we first put this together, and anyway, it's great that it's nearly happened. I've got a question about the old finger posts. You know, thinking, are they A, historical in some way that the Free Museum might want a couple of them? B, is it possible to put them up in auction? Because people buy these things for quite a bit of money, and that might offset the cost. Are they ours to do that with in the first place?
This is something we'll look into, Rich. I have to admit, I haven't discussed with Jane how the existing paraphernalia will be used and what will happen to it, but we'll certainly take that away and we'll provide you with an update in terms of what can be done.
I want myself.
Head down to Frome Rec, they'll have them for you in a couple of weeks' time. Nick.
Yeah, good evening, Nick Dove, Councillor Market Ward. Thanks, Peter, for that interesting presentation. I don't want to go back over 5 years worth of discussion, so I'll skip why we're replacing the old style with the new style. But one of the things that has happened in the centre of town, certainly on Stony Street, at the top of Stony Street in junction with Catherine Hill, is that vehicles lorries, delivery lorries, have been knocking the existing signs. And I know Chris and sent his rangers out to help change one that had moved all the signage by clipping it with the sort of lorries and vans going up. Are these signs that are being produced going to be the same size as the existing ones? In other words, will they be sticking out and being potentially knocked by vehicles driving through our narrow streets?
That's a very good question. Apologies, I'm not able to answer that one, Nick, but I'll certainly pick it up with Jane. In particular, I'll ask her to take a very close look at the positioning of the fingers once these posts are in position, because I think the point that you've raised is an important one. We need to ensure that these are as durable as possible and that they don't become a regular target, for damage. So that's a point I'll pick up with Jane, and I'll get some feedback to you on that, Nick.
Thanks very much, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, and Sheila, and then Andy.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Sheila Gore. You might forgive me if this is in the report, but I can't remember. These posts will now belong to Frome Town Council, so there won't be all the toing and froing backwards and forwards to Somerset, because it is galling to think that part of the problem, part of the expense has been caused not by us, but by delays with Somerset. And you sort of, I would certainly want to say, come on, Somerset, cough up. We know that we probably won't get that, but it is so frustrating to have that bureaucratic delay that then causes us to have to spend what is more than double the original cost.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that these finger posts will be ours, and therefore, we have the ability to deal with any issues that crop up. But most importantly, as I think I mentioned earlier, we'll be in a really good position to update the fingers, when new places to visit come up, when things change in the town. So yes, Sheila, we'll be in a really good position now, and we won't have to go to either Mendip or Somerset County Council if we want to make changes. So that's really good news.
I think Sheila had the other bit of her point was, before they become ours, when they're just notional finger posts that don't exist in the world, can we ask Somerset or perhaps our friends at Mendip for some financial assistance? Because we're supporting the local economy and the vibrant town of Frome, which benefits them as well.
We can certainly try, but I have to be honest and say that in particular, when we've asked Somerset County Council in the past for support with these things, due to delays that they have created, we haven't had a positive response to that. So I wouldn't want to build up your expectations that we would be successful with that, but we can certainly ask the question. I think that one of the questions here is whether there might be any grant aid that could support this project. That's certainly a good shout, and we'll look into that one and see if there is anything there that might help to reduce our cost. So we'll look into that, and I'll feed back to you.
Lovely, thank you, Andy, and then I'm going to go to Rachel for the virtual comments.
So Andy Jones, still a member of the public. And I did tip Peter off that I was going to ask this, but not with very much notice. The samples that I've seen are all in yards and miles. I'm just wondering whether we should take the opportunity to go metric.
I did notice that in the design as well. Oh, interesting. Peter.
Well, thanks, Andy. And actually, that's a very good. That is a very good question. And as you will imagine, I haven't had an opportunity to consult with Jane, who's the project manager, since you raised this point late this afternoon. But what I have done is I have spoken with our transport consultant who assisted us with this project, and he said that whilst the convention in highway directional signage is to go for imperial, when it comes to the kind of wayfinding signage for pedestrians, there is no particular convention. and the choice could be left to our discretion. Also, usefully, this is quite important in terms of avoiding any further delays. Changing to metric wouldn't affect our license in his view. Personally, I would agree with the view that most younger people would now expect to see metric used. And given that we're creating something here, not only for the current, but also for future generations, I think it would be wise to go for metric. Councillors, of course, may have their own views on this and indeed may wish to propose an amendment if they feel strongly about it. But I think my personal opinion, my professional view on this is that I think that it would be wise in this instance to go for metric.
Thanks, Peter. I think the other piece that plays into that is, as a tourist destination, hopefully, despite Brexit, we're still going to be having some continental visitors trying to find their way around.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to go to John and then to Rachel. I think you're on.
Yeah, John Nelson, Councillor Park Ward. I'm not sure if most young people around here in the UK operate in kilometers and they just don't, in my experience. I would take, it is true though, but locals don't really need the signage. So the signage is for people coming in from outside. And I still think that most people coming from outside, they'll understand the imperial system better than metric. So, but you know, I'm pretty flexible on that point.
Okay, Andy. I will come to Rachel. Are you still on directions and metric systems?
Hi, Andy Rintmore, Mayor. Maybe we could go one better and just put 10-minute walk, 5-minute walk, 15-minute walk. Because I don't know, personally, I look at that stuff and I go, I don't know what a kilometre is and how long is it going to take me to get there? I just want to glance.
Very long legs, Andy.
15 minutes, nah, 5 minutes. I will go for that one. Convenience, give me convenience.
Maybe some gradients as well for the hills. Peter.
Can I just say, I had a chat with our transport consultant about this. If you look at the wayfinding signage in Bath, they actually go for time taken to walk from one location to another, which is interesting. If you look at all of their wayfinding signage, our transport consultant's view on this was that actually it depends on who you are in terms of how long it takes you to get from one place to another. And his advice was to go with either imperial or metric, but you know, at the end of the day, it's at our discretion, and you know, be interested to see what others' views are on this.
I'm going to go to Rachel because I've been putting off the room, but I will come back to you.
We've got two people who don't like to, who've got their hands up online. Andy was first, and then Anne.
Andy.
Andy Palmer, councillor. Do you know what? I'm going to agree with the mayor, to be honest. My wife quite often says to me, how long does it take to get somewhere? And always then says minutes, not miles. So I think that's a useful thing. I had a load of questions, but literally I've ticked them off as everyone's gone around the room. So the only thing I wanted to add was thank you for the presentation, Peter, and thank you to Jane for the work that's gone into this. I think it is overdue, and I think the new signs look great.
Thank you.
And Anne.
Thank you. Peter, my question is about updating the signs. Do we have some sort of guarantee from the provider that we can go back to them? Would we want to go back to them for new signs or updated signs? Do we have to go back to them for newly or updated signs? And is there some sort of projection of how much that's going to cost in the future? Because I'd hate the prices of updates to skyrocket just after we bought this new system.
I would expect us to be in a position to go back to the supplier for updates. Obviously, I can't I can't confirm, unfortunately, what the cost of that would be, and the cost of materials such as this are subject to inflation and rampant inflation at the moment, unfortunately. So it's difficult for us to project what that cost would be. But my full expectation is that we will be able to go back to the supplier and get them to support any future updates.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Anita.
Thank you, Anita Collier. I was just going to really endorse Andy's view that we should maybe go for time. And I think I hear what people are saying about the fact that it depends who you are and how quickly you walk, etc. But I was just thinking of examples like at the airport. If it says it's 20 minutes to gate 32, I know that I'm a slow walker and it's probably going to take me 40 minutes. But I think you are, whoever you are, I think you make adjustments for your own level of walking. So I think if you take the average, then everybody else would work out the time it would take them personally. So I don't see that as an issue.
Mark, yeah.
I don't see, can we not have it in two, bilingual? If Wales can put every sign in English and Welsh, could we not put it in miles and kilometres? And possibly time taken. I'm a bit disappointed that this has gone on so long and that the costs have doubled. It seems outrageous to me that we're having to pay this extra money. I'm particularly disappointed. You won't be surprised to hear that some of the shortfall is coming from the Saxonvale earmark reserve, which gets whittled away for if ever we need to use money for anything. So I will vote for it. I think it's something we need to do. I'm a bit disappointed with the way it's gone. Obviously beyond our control.
Okay, thank you for that. Were there any other questions on the use of the EMRs or the allocation of that funding? Because I thought you'd raised that one. And any other questions more generally? Paul, and you can then guide me on what we want to do with the recommendations.
Really one of clarification of Peter. If we wanted to change the order, Peter, from imperial measurements to either minutes or metric, is that still possible? I mean, they haven't made half of them already, I take it.
No, it'll be very straightforward. It's just a question of converting the figures that are on the existing designs, and that's easily done by our suppliers. So no problems at all there.
So I think then your choice really. We could. Someone proposes that the measurement is in time, and then someone seconds that and vote on it. Or I can just take the temperature of the room, and it seems that most people think time is quite a good idea, but no. So in that, thanks, Nick. That's really helpful, because in that case, we ought to have someone to propose that the measurement is in something.
John, please.
I just wonder if in the room there are strong feelings for two of them. We could have both, because I like, why can't we have two different things? Because I can imagine if you're cycling along, you look at the waypost, 5 minutes walking. How are you going to work that out? So actually, you might want to have miles. Oh, you might like to have miles as well as time for walkers. So maybe if we could find the top two preferences, maybe that would be the amendment, which could just go through and we could just be done with it, because otherwise it'll hang around. It'll cost us another £5,000.
Steve, did you want to jump in on that one? Could use the new gooseneck microphone.
Oh, lovely. All I was going to say is to add to the time and distance argument. The one sort of at the station where it's a much longer journey, whichever route you take, the scenic or otherwise, might be easier and more useful in time. But the ones in actually the town centre, where it's actually a very short distance from A to B and whatever, I don't really see the need to put that in time. It's more 100 meters or whatever. It's over there. The toilets are over there, sort of thing. I mean, unless you're of a certain age, time isn't that relevant. But,
so perhaps it's time is of the essence. I don't know. Perhaps it's a hybrid approach that we're looking at, which suits the sign to the location and purpose of said sign. We could indeed.
Nick.
I mean, I'd go with Steve's suggestion, actually. I mean, I think it's situation is more relevant than anything else, and I think we should go with metric rather than imperial.
Okay, Rachel.
Just one comment. Obviously, the Discover Froome Information Point volunteers have been on the butt end of a lot of questions about the posts from, since we've opened, basically. And they potentially may have a view, and I wondered whether that might be useful to canvass their view, not wanting to elongate the process anymore. It's just a suggestion.
Can I make a suggestion then? Because it seems as though
find us a way.
Find us a way. And it seems as though the mixture of the essence of what Steve was talking about seems a good one. It seems as though metric is more popular than imperial. And therefore we can work out, Jane and Rachel and the Discover Froome volunteers can maybe you could let us decide along those lines. And then we don't need to have a vote on it, really, because it's actually too complex to vote on. But how many posts are there, Peter? There's a dozen or so.
No, I think we're going to move forward and we're going to do each one of them individually. This is democracy, kids. Come on.
The next meeting, we'll bring each post in and we can have
we can ask it what
sticky
it
dots on each one. To summarise then, we've heard what you're saying. We'll take that away and we'll deal with it.
Brilliant. That's the best recommendation ever.
You have to vote on the money.
You have to vote on the money. Can I have someone to propose agreeing the additional budget? Rich, thank you very much. Anita to second. And
it's unanimous.
Thank you all very much. Brilliant. So we move on to number 5. On the screen, handily enough, thank you, which is an update on the online work of the marketing and communications team, which is with Rachel. Rachel, over to you.
Yes, hello. I'm Rachel, the marketing and communication manager for Froome Town Council. So we have been very busy over the last, since we reported back, which would have been in November. We've obviously had a wealth of different events, a whole host of things that we've been promoting since then. So this is just going to be a quick overview of that. I'm going to try not to focus too much on events because I think I talked about that in our matters, but really just to give the flavour of what we're talking about and how it's been received and how what we talk about online gets translated into bums on seats or ticket sales or whatever it is that we're trying to point people towards. So if you last time we were here talking, I think we've just done Glow in the Park. We've since done a walking festival where we saw at least 200 walkers, 15 guided walks, and also gave away hundreds of paper walks to just really encourage walks in the town. We supported Remembrance Day, a big online but also in presence piece of work that we delivered was the Froome Times wraparound. That was really nice collaboration between us, part of the Green and Healthy Futures, so between us and the medical practice and the and Adventure. There were 47 articles that we wrote, curated, mixed and matched, placed in the beautiful Froome Times, and that was really, really positively received. So we were delighted by that. The criticism was really very minimal. We'd expected that we might receive some backlash because it was quite a interesting piece of work to do, but generally speaking, really, really well received. So that was a great indication for things to come that we've got planned for this year. Christmas light switch on in terms of sales, really. 500 lantern kits were sold, which was, you know, an astonishing amount. I don't think we had 500 lanterns in the parade, but we did do counting for the first time. But we tried to be properly flickered on and off. So we think we had about 3,500 people through and in the marketplace and in the parade at the same time, which was, well, we've obviously always underestimated before, because I don't think it was extraordinarily much busier than usual, but definitely we had, you know, that were the clicks. What else did we do? We brought people here to the chamber for a really nice event that we worked in collaboration with Friends of the River Froome, supporting their Riverside event. That was also really well received. Tree planting, we've had people out tree planting, which was sad, despite desperate weather. So that was quite unusual. We've also got people to their climate action group, and tricky conversation training has also performed really, really well over the last couple of weeks. Those have been. Healthy homes and positive periods have been a little bit of a more difficult ask, so we're looking at how we position those. Obviously, we've got some further campaigning to do, and we might try to work with the resilience team to just slightly change the shape of those offers to just move the campaigns forward, because of course we'd really love Froome to be the first plastic-free period town. As regards the website, we have written a phenomenal amount, 76 news releases since November. I know it's terrible, but all good quality content, which really works well. It does translate. You can see the content drives through to the pushes through to various social media channels, and also we get click-throughs to the ticket tailors. So it means, generally speaking, we're on the right tracks. We are showing this off because October saw the record month for website visits since first recording. That was really due to Glow in the Park, obviously an extraordinary event that we can't repeat, but we had 3,000 page views on the 30th of October, whereas our daily uses are normally 300 to 400. So that is interesting. November also saw another peak again for Christmas light switch on. That, of course, is more anticipated and expected. The Find directory, we're really keeping a really close eye on that to try and support, Froome Information Network directory, for those who saw your little frown. We're keeping a really close eye on that so that we can support where best to place our social media. We are looking at doing a series of paid boosts to that. So we're really reaching the people who we are hoping to reach. Obviously, we take it online, offline with the collateral. The postcards go out and about. Our children and young people's officers are really excellent at getting the conversations into schools. We're just trying to reach as far as possible. The Froome Living section, which is the most established section of that, is still the highest performing element of that section. So things like community groups, clubs and hobbies, but increasingly things to do, places to go, and family support and advice have had really good engagement over the last few months. There was a bit of a seasonal lull over Christmas, as is the same across all FTC sites, and I would be interested to see whether that's the same over most websites, and I haven't quite worked out how to find that information yet. Generally speaking, the team have been carrying out a spring clean, refreshing the content, keeping everything up to date, and keeping it relevant, and that is what keeps people coming back. So that constant, need for information about the events and the whole host of things that we have on offer and that we're trying to deliver. Social, as expected, Facebook coverage, the same. The peaks were in Glow in the Park and Light the Night Christmas event being extremely popular, but it's not just events that stimulate engagement on Facebook. It's also opportunity for residents to engage on town concerns. For example, there's some good conversation around vandalism in Victoria Park. And of course, there's always something to be said about road closures, obviously. The social medias are really packed at the moment, so please help, like, share, support where you feel you can, because the more engagement we can get, then the better that works. But generally they are flourishing. We've seen some really, really great conversation recently, particularly around Green Breather Days, which we were expecting to be a little bit contentious, but actually it's been a really nice, balanced, it has felt more like a conversation. So I think that is really useful. Obviously, I'll have more to say about that tomorrow evening. Please come if you're interested. So that is, yeah. And obviously we've had less than positive engagement around last night's Engaging Women event, and hopefully that will have all died down now. I think just sort of has to be noted, really. The popularity and relaunch of e-bikes has also been something that has been really on the thing. We've had some really good little films that will just help us promote things, and it's really nice to be able to add film as a extra online offer to keep the content fresh. Just to highlight a few problems that we have been having, that we've had some real problems with running what Facebook sees as social and political ads. So recently, whereas we have been able to boost posts in the past, recently we have been blocked. We're not quite sure why. We are trying to get to the bottom of it and trying to talk to various chatbots, and we've uploaded our passport details and all sorts of interesting things, but just to know that that is going on. So you might notice a slight change in content as we try and pepper things in groups that we wouldn't otherwise normally go to. We hope the normal service will be resumed soon. So yes, we're still trying to find a workaround there. Discover Froome, as ever, has performed really well. So those figures are back up to where we would expect them to be. We've had over 70,000 page views since November. As hoped in the walking festival, the walking pages go and stay in the top 10, which is really unusual in November. So we're quite proud of that. Obviously, it's not as unusual through the summer, but to just try and keep that that going is really important for us. Other things that are always around in there are the markets, and Christmas in Froome page has been really, really popular. Not as successful this year, just to not give you the whole shiny all is well, was the Facebook virtual marketplace. It was really, really successful last year. This year, I think we would say that the engagement wasn't probably worth the effort. We will still look at that and ask for councillors' opinions, but generally, I think we could probably come up with a different set of Christmas promotions next year that feels a bit more relevant. Obviously, that's probably really good news for our independent retailers. It means people are back in actually on foot. So that is good. We are newsletters, the other thing, 4% higher on average than our peers in terms of open rates. So that's not bad, not quite as much of an increase as last time, but we're still on the upward trajectory. Really happy about that. We do have 8 regular newsletters now, though. So just to flag, we won't be able to be picking up too many more of those because it's quite a lot of work to put them together for various daily lists. The next steps there, of course, are clearing up the mailing lists. We've started with the business newsletter database, and it's a case of crunching through the data, talking to people and making sure that we're talking to the right people. So that is going to be an ongoing thing throughout the next 6 months, probably. There is a definite skew in our comms work at the moment towards our green objectives, and we are trying to ensure that we have a balance so that we have, communities and business, and so just to flag that we are aware of that, and so that but lots of other projects well underway. Green Breather Days, we've as I mentioned before, we've also had lots of other people come forward over the last few weeks with new events. So Frome Photographic Festival, there's a new Green Film Festival. We're of course supporting the Kindness Festival, a large amount of which will be in here. And of course, we're really looking forward to Window Wonderland, which is doing some work in partnership with Neighbourhood Networks. And you will see by the end of the financial year, we're just going to sneak Frome busks in there too. So that's what we're really looking forward to. Something that's been a little bit more frustrating has been the getting the cycling festival off to a solid start, but we are working on that. It's not scheduled for October, so we still have plenty of time. But again, just to flag some of the less than shiny things that are going on.
Fantastic.
Thank you. That's all from me.
Do you ever sleep? No. Okay, that's good to know. Worrying. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Rachel. Any questions or comments here in the room? Nick?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rachel. Loads of brilliant stuff there. Obviously, I just need to ask about last night's post. That kind of there's obviously stuff on Facebook. I shared it because obviously we're very keen to get lots of people to come forward and discuss. But then subsequently, I had a lot of conversations back to me saying, "What are you doing? What is that language? What are we trying to present or portray?" And was that just a unilateral decision? We go with the wording, or?
It was a decision that that we took, and to be honest, it is language that I would use every day. So I really did not anticipate that it would be anything other than reflective of that. And you know, we used a neon sign. It was an event that we took the decision to deliver on Thursday, and for various reasons it needed to happen this week, not least because of various parties' deadlines. So that was what we went with. Obviously, I'm really...
No, I think there's probably, certainly I'm not aware of the context of this, and it sounds like it's very immediate, and that it may be, I don't know if this is the right forum to kind of to explain the situation to everybody, or if you want to take a bit of time and report back separately on it, because
I mean, to be honest, I'm quite happy to talk about it. You know, yes, we used something that was neon. We called it quick and dirty, and you know, engaging women in local politics. And to be honest, it was just that. It was an effort to try and highlight how we needed people to act quickly. It had not even occurred to me. And generally, obviously, reputation is something that I am, it's, you know, I have my ear flappers out. I sent it to everybody here on Thursday, and it all seems to be fine. And I didn't get any negative comments until Monday morning. And then it went into the Frome group, which is known for blowing things up. And then there was a conversation that, you know, proceeded that there wasn't much that we could do about. I did put a comment in as Frome Town Council. Obviously, the event was put on by Engaging Women, of which I am also part of. So there's a degree of separation there, but not an enormous degree of separation. And to be honest, I was really happy to go on Facebook earlier today and just apologise for any offence caused, which I have done. So,
okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Rachel. And I thought you'd be happy to talk about it. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's easy to be kind of judged with hindsight. It's also the spoken word versus the, you know, the written word. It's always sounds kind of really easy, and I know you know that better than probably all of us in the room. It was just reflecting what I've been told, and also as a man trying to support a female at an event targeting women, you know, had I misread it and so on. So there's kind of things, but I understand, and hopefully people turned up and were present and actually went, and it wasn't, you know, it's easier to skew your view of something by just the negative you hear, and obviously that's not the case if people were supported otherwise.
yeah, I mean, I would say it was really engaged and interesting event, that people who came, it was exactly what they were expecting to attend. And I did wonder how many people had read, who were commenting, had read what the post had been about and what the event was about. Sometimes that does happen on social media. Not everything can be positive, and I'm sorry about that, but I really genuinely hope that some of those people go forward and were inspired last night to become councillors for whichever denomination.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, Rich?
Yeah, Councillor Ackroyd again. Just to say thank you very much. I was in a meeting earlier this week. Peter Wheelhouse was in it. It's an event that probably is going to happen in May, but it was really nice that we could. This is an opportunity that's arisen. Been talking about it over a few months, but we've got a chance to have an unusual event in Frome in May, and it was great that we had somebody from FTC staff, George, in fact, who could come along to that meeting and have the capacity to offer help with the marketing and media stuff. And I think it's really great that we've got that facility, that we can just help people to promote what they're trying to do. Not every council can do that, but it's great that we can. So brilliant. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Any more comments, questions? I'm going to look at you to ask if you've got any questions for yourself.
I have no questions for myself, and nobody has any questions on the board.
Okay, in which case, thank you very much, Rachel. And we don't need to vote on anything on that, apart from that it was fabulous and well done.
Thanks.
So let us move on to number 6, which is Chris, which is an update on parks and green spaces and things that have been happening recently.
Good evening, folks. Thank you, Lizzie. So the parks update at this meeting is a little bit longer, actually. We seem to have been doing some more stuff and obviously planning some more stuff as well. I will pick out a few things and then answer any questions on anything anyone's interested to follow up on. We have a new wildlife pond down by the Roundhouse on the other side of the river from Welsh Mill. That was a really nice project that we've worked on. The Rangers have worked with Frog Life, which is a local charity, and I know the Rangers are really quite chuffed with that work down there, so we are very pleased about that. As Anita mentioned earlier, the speed indicator device, the SID, is out and about. Going forward, I would expect some reports coming back in from the Community Speed Watch team rather than necessarily from us. As we gather the data, hopefully kind of patterns, trends start to become more obvious, more important, more relevant. So I think there will be kind of more in-depth reporting on that at future meetings. There's a number of us involved in community engagement over at Eggford Lane. We're going to put together kind of a second version of the plan for the space around in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll be taking that back to the community this spring to talk to them and say, get started on some of the actions that were universally popular, and talk to people a little bit more about some of the ideas where maybe we've changed our minds or doing things slightly differently based on what the community have told us so far. People have got the opportunity to comment on some tree planting ideas for Waylands, which have been drawn up by Frome's Tree Group at the moment. Importantly, we've got management plans coming back to the next Council Matters Committee. The expected spaces have been listed in the report. And so actually, if people want to kind of get in touch with their thoughts on those particular spaces, now's quite a good time for that as well, because then we can start to factor that into the next steps for those management plans. And the other thing coming up in terms of kind of some fairly significant community engagement is we will be talking to people about the show field in particular. There's quite a few kind of interesting, potentially quite important proposals and ideas for the show field. And obviously as one of our kind of biggest spaces and definitely a town space, we want to take the opportunity to talk to people about all of those things and to try and wrap it all up in one. And so that will be something that is starting in spring. So yeah, those are the ones that I just wanted to point out, if that's okay, and then happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chris. I shall look around the room. Sheila.
Hi, Chris. It's just my, I quite often ask this, but I'd just like to get a summary. I think it's in your report about the situation with the Boycross fountain. It's a very obvious thing that does not function at the moment, and considering how much money we spent on it, it would be good to know what's happening there.
Yeah, so the plan is very much that we will have that operating again by the end of this month. At one point we were kind of hopeful that perhaps all of the maintenance and the upkeep could be taken on kind of by the Rangers and perhaps by myself. What we found is actually that there's some technical expertise and some knowledge that we just don't have, and it would be very difficult for us to gain it. So we'd been working, we had a specialist company who were doing some checks on the fountain. That contract, we drew that to an end, and we're just going to put in place one with another company that, again, kind of specialises in public water features, and we just need them to give us a little bit of their expertise to get it back up and running. But hopefully, sooner rather than later, it will be working again.
Okay, thank you very much. Rich?
Hi, Chris. Councillor Ackroyd again. I was on my bike today, unusually, because it was nice weather this morning, and I had a good ride around the town at one point, and actually our green spaces look pretty good. And I think, again, it's down to the Rangers, so there's things on North Parade, the flower display there is starting to look really good again. They've got the sand pit in Welsh Mill. And I was up at Eggford Lane, and Ranger Tony was there, and you can see a massive difference since we've taken that space over in a year. You know, there's new pathways being built at the moment, but there's so much more as well, and bins, signage, and people were using it, and people were very, very complimentary about what was happening. So, you know, down to you and the Rangers and all the team. Thanks very much for that. I think it's, you know, your credit to the town. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Rachel?
Adam Boyden would like to ask a question.
Fantastic. Good evening, Adam. Hello.
Oh, hi, yeah, yes, thank you for this. Adam Boyden here. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the work of the show field as well. There's obviously a lot more going on the show field now since the Town Council took it over. There's a couple of issues with you know, cut grass being left too long, and that had to be fenced off. There's also a ditch issue which has gone stagnant again, and that maybe can be addressed. But overall, I think a lot of people are a lot happier with the show field over the last few years, including with the fence around the playground. I've heard good things about that. So yeah, again, well done Rangers, and well done for the planting as well. And yeah, keep it up. And I'm looking forward to that engagement.
Great, thank you, Adam. I'm looking forward to the bit when the show field gets mown into the swirly whirly, personally, because that's just so much fun. I'm too old for this. For that, anyway. Nick.
You, Nick Dove again. Chris, great work. I won't go on with those, all said it already, but just to think about the bird and bat boxes, I heard some, a friend of mine went on one of the courses, if they call that. I just wondered if there's space, would it, for, I have a couple of friends, Paul, so people that laugh, I actually do, who are carpenters and do those kind of things. Is there space, would it help to have people like that involved? It might take a bit of the weight off your Rangers to get involved in that, if they were to be involved, or is it too complicated to get, I don't know, checks on people's backgrounds and so on?
I'm sure we can find a way of making that happen, Nick. I mean, in the past, we've had an arrangement where the men's shed for a little bit was kind of making kits, and then we'd roll those out at community events, and people would build them with kind of a little bit of Ranger supervision. You know, if people want to make some bird and bat boxes and then kind of donate them to the parks and green spaces, that would be one way of doing it. The other way is, you know, yeah, we can certainly follow up on a conversation. If you want to drop me a line separately, then we can have that conversation, talk to them about how they might do that, and we can go forward with it.
Great. It would be remiss of me not to just ask you to update us on the toilets in Victoria Park. I know it's in the report, but it feels like something's happened. So
yes, we've had some quotes in for the asbestos demolition and refurbishment surveys. I was hoping to get to checking them before Christmas. That kind of went by the wayside because other things happened. But we'll make sure that they are assessed pretty swiftly so we can get those surveys completed. And yeah, there was quite a useful conversation actually with the company that provides the CCTV for the town hall about some very practical things that actually we want to factor in terms of making sure we don't do anything daft like stop the CCTV that we will have at the toilets, being able to actually see the things that we want it to see. So yeah, kind of nudging forward and hopefully find some time to nudge it forward a little faster.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for that. Any more for Chris? No, all good. Well, many thanks, Chris. And thank you, as always, to the team and to Rangers for all their great work. On to number 7, which is Laura.
I'm Laura, Executive. Do I need to go closer? You need to hear yourself. Okay, hang on. Sorry, I've got too many laptops. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm the Executive Assistant to the Town Clerk and Mayor and look after some HR matters with Sarah. It's a standing item. Thanks. And I don't really have anything to add. It's in the report. We keep doing training and we'll continue to do training. And if you've got any questions.
There you go. Thank you very much for your brief update.
Thank you very much.
Please minute that as well received.
Thank you.
In which case, number 8, back to Chris for health and safety update.
Oh, I feel I should beat Laura's time now.
Hey.
There really isn't a lot to add to this.
I was settling in for an evening, come on.
Well, other than to say, actually, it's quite nice that there's nothing to report in this one, I don't feel. Hopefully that's just, reassures everybody that the risk registers, the risk assessments, how we do things safely is kind of happening behind the scenes, and actually not a lot's happened between the last meetings. So yeah, not too much to report for this one. Happy to answer any questions on it.
Paul.
Yeah, I think Chris is hiding his light under a bushel a little bit. One of the reasons that there's a bit of a backlog in this area of work is because of the massive amount of risk assessments that we have to do, and Chris updates them virtually on a daily basis to make sure we're within the current legislation and guidance, particularly on COVID. So just bigging him up a bit there, really, just saying sort of that's a big area of work that Chris does that is under the radar, but it's really, really crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Lots of nods, no hands. Thank you, Chris. In which case, on to number 9, which is Rachel.
Hello.
Again, to update us on what's been happening at the town hall.
Sadly, I'm not going to be quite as quick, but I will make it as brief as I can. Active and in touch have moved upstairs since last time I reported. They were just on the move, so they are now ensconced in what we're calling room 5, which is the event in the middle, which is the room in the middle. And that seems to be working very well. They're there 3 days a week. The registry service has also moved into the cafe whilst the library is being refurbished. So that is an important thing for you to know as councillors, to send people up here. They're operating that on the same basis that ever they were, so people needed to have their appointments and come and book in. Room 4 is proving to be a real success. I said that we were going to hold it as bookable space and see how that seems to be panning out. It's a really nice space. People are enjoying using it. And I'm delighted to say we've got ComEd in there 2 days a week trialing up and for this term. So I think that's really good. We've wanted to have them in for a long time. So it's good that that's fine. There's finally a space that feels usable and cost effective for them. COVID-19, yay, COVID's over. Oh, COVID's not over. We continue to balance the demands of an open, accessible building. We're trying to make sure that everybody in the building is feeling safe and comfortable. Obviously, Chris and Sarah have to input into that enormously as well. What that really means is we've decided we're keeping screens up, signage up, gels staying out, masks are available to those who want them. We're also going to be trialling a new PPE recycling bin shortly. So we will let you know as soon as that has arrived. That was on a suggestion from Anita, I understand. So that's quite exciting. Town hall budget wise, I had been optimistic, shall we say, in November when I reported. It now looks like money-wise, we're not expecting to hit the budget. There is expected to be a deficit of about £5,000. But actually that's better than I had anticipated. Obviously, that is explained by the rise of Omicron and why leaving. Looking forward though, we've still got reason to be really optimistic. We've already got £5,000 worth of bookings in the diary for the coming financial year. That's outside obviously the tenants' sums too. So I hope they will still remain optimistic as ever. Fabric of the building, what to report. Finally, the roof has been done. Hooray! And they came and did it over the Christmas period, so there was minimal disruption. Something else that was done whilst we were closed as well was the electrical installation condition report, something that needs to be done every 5 years. So it's good that we've got a good tick against that. Obviously, you heard the lights have been converted to LEDs, which is good. The next step internally really is just to repair where some of the water damage has come in. Now that we're confident that the roof has been repaired, you can just see a little bit over in the corner. Work is also taking place in Redmond for new electrical charging points, which will be arriving. We had hoped that that would already been done. Unfortunately, their teams have COVID, so that's been put off for another 2 weeks, but it's all on the way. And last report, we were talking about a new quinquennial survey that has since been deemed unnecessary by the surveyor. So we'll continue to implement the existing one using the maintenance cycle that they had suggested in that. So
I was looking forward to that survey just because we love the word so much.
Well, I had to slip it into the meeting despite the fact that we're not having one. So we are now actively marketing the building again as as we are open and accessible and up to full capacity again. So got every reason to feel optimistic for the coming year.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for that, Rachel. And again, just huge congratulations on all the work that you've done to open the building, close the building, open the building, but also to bring in some of the things that you have worked for a long time to make happen and to be able to sustain those. That's fantastic.
I do say it every time though, it really is a collaborative, event. So,
Any questions?
Chris and Sarah also get there.
Rachel about the town hall. Anita.
Thanks, Rachel, and well done on all that work. It's absolutely fantastic what's going on here, and a credit to all of you actually for being such a central place in the town that works so well. One of the questions I wanted to ask was, you mentioned about the registry people coming into the cafe during the library closure. I just wondered if we'd been approached by the police at all for a point for them, because of course they were based in the library. And now there is nothing there. So is it something we've approached the police about, or vice versa?
It is something that we reached out to a number of different services. Obviously, the police point's not there, and Mendip's one stop is not there, but they declined the offer. So yes, we did really, particularly. I mean, it's making our life more difficult, actually, not having Mendip there, particularly, not the police so much, but actually not having Mendip there has made more work for our, customer advisors, Nikki and Tracy. Certainly, they're getting a lot more questions just because they are people to talk to, and it is still really difficult to get through to the Mendip's customer service line, which is what they're suggesting. Of course, you could, residents could also go and speak to them in person in Shepton if they wanted to or could
get there or are able.
It's just good to be able to feed back that we've actually made that offer to them. That's the main thing, isn't it? So thank you.
Paul, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, one of the other services in addition to the register office that we have managed to help out is the credit union, because they were meeting their clients on a Saturday morning, And we are now hosting those not on a Saturday morning, but by appointment that the credit union makes with their clients. So there's another service that we have managed to accommodate.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any more comments or questions about the town hall? Anything online? Nope. Okay, in which case, thank you very much for the update, Rachel. That is the end of our official agenda. So it is up to me now just to say the next meeting will be at 7 o'clock on Wednesday, the 4th of May. Will it?
That's the plan at the moment.
The schedule is that there will be a meeting on Wednesday, the 4th of May, Broome Town Hall and Zoom. Thank you all very much for coming along and for joining online, and stay safe and well.